Hey guys, tonight we're sinking below the crust of the earth, past roots, and ruin, until we reach a place most mortals were never meant to go. Your feet touch ground that isn't really ground. It breathes under you like old ash. A warm sulfur mist coils around your ankles, and up ahead the air gets darker instead of lighter. That's your welcome to the underworld. But don't worry, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Always fun to know who's falling asleep in Tokyo and who's wide awake in Nebraska. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge down a spiraling path carved into stone older than time, possibly volcanic, definitely dramatic. Torchlight flickers against the ceiling above, which seems to breathe just a little, like the world's largest, quietest lung. Your guide is, well, not your guide. He's just a guy, pale, barefoot, wearing a laurel crown, and an expression that says he hasn't had a solid nap since Eurydice left. He mutters, "You'll want to see this," and veers left. The passage narrows, the air thickens with a smell that's almost sweet, like rotting figs soaked in wine. And there it is, a garden. Of all things to find in Hades' kingdom, a garden. But not the kind with daisies and butterflies and people picnicking on nice blankets. No, this one's spooky. The dirt is dark as midnight, and the plants curl inwards like they're keeping secrets. Everything is colorless, grayish stalks, ivory stems, leaves like flattened charcoal, except for the tree. One tree, standing completely alone at the center, is flushed with life. Not green, don't get too hopeful, but red. Blood red. Its bark is veined with glowing cracks like lava frozen in time. Its leaves shimmer in the shadows, and hanging from its branches are perfect, glossy pomegranates, crimson, round, and glistening with dew that should not exist in this dead place. You reach out. Don't, your guide says, quietly but firmly. He doesn't like it when people touch the fruit. He, of course, is Hades, lord of the underworld, brother to Zeus and Poseidon, god of contracts, oaths, and awkward family reunions, and horticulturist. See, there's a weird thing that happens when you're the deity in charge of the land of the dead. You don't get a lot of creative outlets. Poseidon gets waves and storms and octopuses with too many opinions. Zeus gets thunderbolts and drama and baby daddies across every island. Hades, he gets a ledger, a very long, dusty ledger of souls. So he took up gardening. Specifically, he grew one thing, this tree. Now, historians still argue whether the pomegranate existed before Hades grew his famous version. There are debates over etymology, over trade routes, over early depictions in Mesopotamian art that may or may not be the fruit in question. But in this version, the sleepy one you're currently living, Hades made the first true underworld pomegranate as a hobby, maybe as a flex, possibly as a trap, because this fruit is dangerous or sacred or both. The stories disagree, as they tend to do after 3,000 years of being whispered by half-bored temple scribes and very committed Renaissance painters. You stare at the fruit. You are tempted. Of course you are. It gleams like a ruby having a really good day, but your guide raises an eyebrow, and behind you, something rustles in the ash. You don't want to find out what, so you step back. Hades' garden is quiet again. So quiet you start to hear things. Your own heartbeat, probably too fast, the faint groan of shifting stone far above, and maybe, the soft crunch of a footstep on ancient gravel behind the tree. Then a voice, low, dry, almost amused. "You came to see my fruit." You try to answer, but your voice forgets how to exist. Your guide clears his throat. "They're curious," he says, "about the tree." A pause, the kind of pause only immortal beings can truly weaponize. "Everyone is," Hades replies, stepping into view. He's tall, elegant, and wearing a cloak the color of widowhood. His eyes are complicated. Not cruel, but definitely not the kind that blink a lot. He walks past you, brushing dust off one of the pomegranates with what looks like affection. You can't help noticing that where his fingers touch the skin, it pulses briefly with light. "I didn't plant it," he says. "It grew." "Wait, what?" "After she came," he adds, almost too softly. "It wasn't here before. I didn't even know seeds could take root in this place." He glances at you like he knows what you're about to ask, because of course he does. "No, not from above," he murmurs. "Not from the mortal world, from her, from Persephone." You take a breath. It's like swallowing velvet laced with dust. He tells you that after Persephone arrived, after she was brought here, or kidnapped, or invited, depending on which version you're hearing today, something changed in the soil. As if her presence awakened something even the underworld had forgotten it could do: nourish, grow, bloom. And from that change, this tree rose. Now, here's a fun fringe theory. Some esoteric texts written by 4th century mystics who definitely drank too much fermented honey suggest that the tree is not just magical, it's sentient, that it bloomed in recognition of Persephone, and that the fruit contains echoes of her voice or memories, or maybe even copies of her soul. Historians, of course, do not agree. Most argue over whether Hades actually grew the tree himself or if it was a divine accident. Some say the pomegranate represents fertility, others say it's about death. Some, usually the ones with long beards and no friends, claim it's just a symbol for agricultural cycles and seasonal rites. But you, standing here, staring at the fruit glowing faintly in the dark, you're not so sure. You get the distinct sense the tree is watching you back. And worse, it's remembering. You don't run, mostly because your legs feel like clay and the air is made of syrup. Also, Hades is still right there, and no one wants to be that mortal who sprints away from a god mid-monologue. He steps around the tree with the quiet dignity of someone who has never once tripped over his own feet. She didn't eat right away, he says, brushing a speck of underworld dust from his robe. Everyone always assumes it was some dramatic bite in a candlelit hall, but it wasn't like that. He looks at you, not unkindly. It took time. And suddenly, you're no longer standing in his private garden. The air shifts. You're somewhere else, someone else, though still in the underworld, judging by the slightly echoey silence and the fact that the shadows here are unusually opinionated. It's a room, grand but empty. Carved obsidian floors, black columns streaked with quartz. A throne at the far end, its cushions stiff with neglect. The light here comes from nowhere and everywhere at once, and in the center of the space, awkwardly shifting in her seat, is Persephone, not the terrifying queen of later myths. This is a younger Persephone, human-shaped confusion wrapped in god-tier beauty. Her hands are folded in her lap, and she's looking at a bowl, a small bowl, with one pomegranate already split open. You can smell it from here. Sweet, sharp, that slight sting at the back of the tongue like biting into something both alive and resigned. Persephone doesn't touch it. She stares like it's ticking. Hades is standing a polite distance away. It's only fruit, he says. She raises an eyebrow. In your world, nothing is only anything. Touche. They sit in silence, the kind that makes you hyper-aware of your own breathing. And just when you think she's going to get up and walk away again, leave the fruit untouched, the moment unresolved, she sighs. It's not a dramatic sigh. It's not some world-altering inhale followed by a thunderous decision. No, it's small. The kind of sigh you make when you realize your sandals are on the wrong feet, but you've already left the house. She picks up one seed, just one, rolls it between her fingers, and eats it. Nothing explodes. The world doesn't split open. But in the quiet of the underworld, the choice echoes. Because here's the thing: eating in the realm of the dead is like signing a magical lease. Once you've consumed something from this world, a part of you belongs to it. It's not a threat. It's metaphysical bureaucracy, ancient rules, divine red tape. That's how Hades keeps visitors from overstaying their welcome, or in this case makes sure someone does. Now, if you believe the Homeric hymn to Demeter, and you probably don't because it's full of wildly inconsistent timeline math, Persephone ate 6 seeds, not 1, not 3, 6. The same number of months she must spend each year underground. But in this moment, here and now, you only see her eat 1. Historians still argue whether the number matters, Hades says, appearing beside you again, or if it was just meant to explain the seasons to bored children. He glances over at Persephone, who is now staring off at nothing in particular, her fingers red-stained. Either way, it was done. He gestures, and the scene ripples, time sloshing like water in a shallow bowl. You're back in the garden. The tree is glowing again, and this time there are 2 figures beside it. Persephone, and you know who. They're standing close, not touching, but with that strange almost chemistry of people who can't decide whether they're enemies, lovers, or co-workers in a very niche department. She asked if she could grow something, Hades says quietly. In the underworld? He nods. said she missed color, said death was too quiet. So, of course, he gave her a patch of soil, just a little one. You half expect him to say he brought in imported mulch from the mortal realm, but no, he just let her dig, and something grew. Not the tree, not yet. Just a little vine, then another, then oddly, flowers, strange ones, white with a pulse of red inside. And finally, months or centuries later, time here has no interest in pleasing your calendar app. The tree itself sprouted in the middle of the plot, a leafless stick barely taller than your knee. And it watched her. No, really, it watched her. You could feel it, even from the edges of the garden, the way the tree shifted toward her when she passed, the way it waited. And then one day, just like that, the first fruit bloomed, glossy, whole, as if it had always been there, waiting for a myth to fulfill. Now here's the weird part, one you won't find in school books. There are a handful of scrolls, likely fakes, possibly not, written by early Orphic cult leaders, that claim the original pomegranate didn't just represent Persephone's choice. It was her choice, as in, the fruit carried a sliver of her soul, broken off and wrapped in seed and rind, that when she bit into it, she didn't just agree to stay, she seeded herself into the land. You glance up at the tree again. It's hard not to wonder, was this Hades' trap? Or Persephone's garden? Hades gives a tiny, tired smile. Everyone thinks I tricked her. Maybe I did. Maybe she let me. He kneels beside one of the roots and gently runs a hand over the dirt. The tree shivers, not in fear, in memory. She never said why she ate it, he adds, and I never asked. And in that moment, for all the power in this place, all the kingdoms and contracts and rivers of souls, Hades just looks human. A man who let something grow in a place not meant for growing and still isn't sure whether that was a gift or a mistake. Behind you, a breeze moves through the garden, but there's no wind here, no source, just the soft hiss of something alive that shouldn't be. You realize that pomegranate tree isn't just surviving, it's thriving. Branches stretching wider, roots moving beneath the ash like veins, fruits swelling, ripe with whatever dreams gods dream. And you haven't even tried one yet. You're still staring at the tree. The pomegranates are a little too red in that way things in the underworld tend to be, like they're overcompensating for the fact that everything else here is gray and echoing and smells faintly of last rites. The fruit hangs heavy, the way ripe things do when they're right on the edge of becoming rot. Go ahead, Hades says. They don't bite. You don't move, he chuckles. I mean, they do, technically. You're the one doing the biting, but semantics. You glance at him. What happens if I eat one? He shrugs. What always happens? You belong a little more than you did before. No pressure then. But before your brain can spiral into whether eternal seasonal co-ownership is part of the deal, something distracts you. A flicker. There at the base of the tree, a small carved stone, square, worn by time. It's a gravestone, or at least it used to be. Now it's just a name half-eaten by lichen and memory. You crouch, the letters are Greek, ancient. Some of them still sharp, others softened by the centuries, like they're tired of being remembered. You can only make out part of it. Mena, daughter of Dem. Hades doesn't say anything. He lets you read. Is this? You begin. He nods. One of the first. Not the first, but close. You trace the stone's edge. You planted her here? No, he says. She did. And with that, the world changes again. But not all at once, just a slow dissolve, like watercolor soaking through parchment. You blink and suddenly it's her hands in the dirt, not yours. A mortal girl olive-skinned with eyes that have seen too much war and not enough spring. Her name is Iamina, a priestess in Demeter's service. Dead at 19, probably from something unromantic like infected blisters or bad cheese. The underworld doesn't care about details like that. When she arrived, Persephone found her. Or maybe she found Persephone. Either way, the queen took a liking to the girl, gave her a place in the gardens, and when Iamina said she missed the earth, Persephone brought her to this tree. It's strange, the girl said once, kneeling beside it. I died so young, and yet I feel like I'm still blooming. Quaint, sure. But the weird thing? She was. You see it now, this uncanny kind of growth. Not in flesh, but in essence. Iamina's spirit never faded the way most do down here. The tree somehow was feeding her, even as she tended it. Not just a metaphor, something deeper, like the tree had roots in more than one world. Hades, watching you watch this, raises an eyebrow. You're wondering if that's how it works, he says. If souls can anchor themselves through memory, through ritual, through seeds, you are. Historians still argue whether the ancient rites around pomegranates were symbolic or literal, he continues. The Eleusinian mysteries were big on layers. Oh, right. The mysteries. Ancient Greek death cult, invitation only, no cell phones allowed. People whispered that participants learned secrets about life, death, and the afterlife so profound they could never speak of them again. Or maybe the wine was just that good. Pomegranates were central to the ritual, not just as fruit, but as offerings, symbols, portals. Modern scholars love to squint at vase paintings and declare confidently, ah, yes, this clearly depicts the symbolic marriage of life and death. But then there are stranger finds, like the small pit in southern Italy, where archaeologists unearthed a dozen skeletons buried with dried pomegranate rinds in their mouths. Some think it was about fertility, others think it was a sign of belonging, and a few fringe theorists, probably the ones with unbrushed hair and suspiciously detailed Etsy stores, believe it was about anchoring the soul, keeping a part of you somewhere permanent. You look again at Iamina. Her hands are translucent now, like morning mist. She smiles at something only she sees, then vanishes. Back in the present, if such a word even works here, Hades watches the last of her fade with a kind of fond neutrality. She stayed longer than most, he says, but even the anchored drift eventually. And suddenly the tree feels heavier, not because of its fruit or its myth or its roots twisting beneath the garden, but because it's a place that holds memory like stone holds heat. It remembers Persephone. It remembers Iamina. It remembers every hand that ever touched it. Can you grow anything else here? You ask. Hades tilts his head. Technically, but nothing grows well unless she plants it. She? You mean Persephone? Who else? He smiles, just slightly. This was always her garden. I just keep the soil quiet. Another breeze. Another fruit thuds softly to the ground beside you. No has the impact kicks up a little ash. You half expect it to burst open dramatically, but no, it just rolls to a stop. It looks ordinary, which makes it deeply suspicious. You lean closer, and now you see something odd. Inside the fruit, through a small tear in the skin, something glints. Not juice, not a seed, metal. Tiny, circular, like a coin. What is that? You whisper. Hades crouches beside you, brows knitting. That wasn't there before, which is, of course, exactly what you wanted to hear. Because nothing like an unidentified underworld coin lodged in a pomegranate screen perfectly safe bedtime detour. Still, you pick it up, and the coin is cold. Not just temperature cold, but quiet cold. The kind of cold that makes your fingers feel like strangers. It's smooth on one side, rough on the other, etched with an image you can't quite make out. Before you can ask, Hades says softly, we buried those with the dead. For passage. You know the tradition, obol in the mouth, pay the ferryman, cross the Styx. But why is one in the fruit? The underworld, it seems, is still inventing rules. You tuck the coin into your pocket because of course you do. That's exactly how every haunted legend starts. You glance again at the tree, one seed, one bite, one life traded, changed, or remembered. How many more secrets is this thing hiding? Hades is silent, but you swear. Just for a second, the tree leans toward you, as if listening or waiting. You're still holding the coin. It doesn't get warmer. And that's the first clue that it isn't quite here. Not fully. Like a half-forgotten dream that lingers on your skin longer than it should. You rub your thumb across its surface, hoping to feel something. A groove, an inscription, a spark. But it just sits in your palm like a quiet question. Hades hasn't moved. Neither has the tree. But something beneath you has. A subtle hum, a nearly imperceptible vibration through the soles of your shoes, like a subway approaching in a city that forgot it had a subway. You brace. Don't worry, Hades mutters. That's just the river waking up. Oh, great. Because if the river's waking up, that means someone or something is coming to cross it. The river Styx is not a water feature. It is not a gentle stream for skipping stones or dipping toes. It is a current of memory, promise, and the kind of ancient wrath that probably requires waivers. And Charon, its resident boatman, is not known for small talk. You follow Hades as he steps off the gravel path. The grass here is wrong, blackish brown, soft but not welcoming. Your feet sink a little with each step. At the bank, the river rolls by. It doesn't splash, it doesn't ripple. It just moves, thick and slow, like oil and sorrow had a baby. And across the surface, something bobs into view. A boat. But not the kind you'd imagine. There are no eerie lanterns or carved skulls, just a flat bottomed wooden skiff creaking faintly under the weight of its passenger. And there he is, Charon. He's as lovely as you'd expect. If lovely means vaguely skeletal with robes that might once have been couture but now look like they've seen several economic collapses. His pole is long and crooked. His eyes are. Actually, no, let's not talk about the eyes. He doesn't speak, just holds out one hand. Hades sighs. Go on, give him the coin. Wait, this coin? The one you just found in the pomegranate? That's not mine, you protest. Possession is 10/10 of the law down here. Hades shrugs. You hesitate, but Charon's hand does not. So you drop the coin into his palm, and immediately the boat begins to drift away, except not across the river, alongside it, as though the current has bent sideways just to carry you. Yes, you're in the boat now. Don't ask how. The moment you gave the coin, the scenery blurred, and suddenly you were seated across from Charon with your hands in your lap like a very polite abductee. The boat creaks, the river groans, and all around you, fog begins to rise. You glance back, but the garden's gone. Or maybe it was never there to begin with. Is this the normal route? You ask, casually, the way one might ask a bus driver about an unexpected detour through a lava pit. Charon, of course, says nothing. And now the fog parts, just a little, and you see them. Figures, standing at the water's edge. Not real, not solid, but not nothing either. Echoes of people, shapes in the mist. One is a man hunched over a broken lyre. Another is a woman with empty arms, cradling nothing. Then a child, barefoot, with a face older than yours. You realize they're watching you. You realize they're waiting. Who are they? You whisper. And the answer doesn't come from Charon, but from the river itself. A whisper through the fog. Remnants. Oh, good. Vague horror. These are not the souls that moved on, nor the ones reborn. These are the fragments that refuse to leave fully. Pieces of memory too stubborn or too bound by the living to fade. Historians still argue whether the ancient Greeks believed in reincarnation as part of the underworld cycle. Some texts hint at it, souls drinking from the river Lethe to forget and be reborn. But others suggest the dead simply lingered forever, sorted and filed by moral alignment like some divine DMV. You pass another figure. This one speaks, not in words, but in feeling, a sudden rush of grief, warm bread and wet earth, a memory of something lost. You don't know whose it is? Maybe it was never meant to belong to just one person. Charon rows on. You try not to make eye contact. Eventually, the fog begins to thin. And ahead, on the far side of the river, you see something glowing. Not gold, not silver, but something older. The shore rises up, steep and rocky like the rim of a crater, and carved into it are doors, thousands of them. All shapes, all sizes, some wide open, others sealed shut with vines or bone. What is this place? You murmur. Charon doesn't answer, but the boat slows, and then you're there. He extends his hand again, not for a coin this time, but for your permission. You nod. He helps you out, and your feet find the rocky shore. The ground is warm, and one door, small, crooked, edged in ivy, begins to creak open. You walk toward it, because of course you do. Because this is not just a tour anymore, it's a test. And on the other side of that door, something is waiting. Something that remembers you. The door doesn't swing open, it exhales. A long, creaking sigh, like the air behind it has waited too long to be let out. You step inside, ducking slightly under the crooked lintel, and the moment your feet cross the threshold, the temperature drops. Not cold exactly, just old. Like walking into a root cellar that hasn't been touched since olives were still used as currency. You're in a corridor now, low ceiling, damp walls. The stones beneath your feet feel slightly uneven, as if someone tried to lay a path and gave up halfway through. It's not torchlit, yet you can still see everything tinted in that same underworld twilight where shadows don't need a source. Behind you, the door closes without a sound. No pressure. It's just you and the corridor, and the faint sense that something is very politely following you from just beyond your peripheral vision. You walk. It bends once, twice, and then opens into a chamber. Not a grand one. Not a throne room. More like someone's very elaborate reading nook if that someone were a millennia-old god of the dead with a flair for dramatic flair. Shelves line the walls filled with scrolls, carved tablets, and papyrus folded like origami nightmares. And right in the center, a desk. Behind it sits a woman. She doesn't look up. She's writing. You clear your throat quietly. She holds up one finger, still scribbling. Another 5 seconds pass. Then she stops and looks at you. Her eyes are ink, not metaphorically, literally black and liquid, like someone poured a well into her skull. Her robes are threadbare but clean. She smells like myrrh and very old paper. You're early, she says. Oh, cool. Love that for you. I didn't know I had a schedule. No one does, she shrugs. That's the test. You don't ask what that means. Instead, you glance around again. Is this? Yes, the registry. For what? She taps a long ink-stained fingernail on the desk. Memory, intention, seeds. And then, as if you should have known this all along, she adds, you touched the fruit, so now we see what grew inside. You frown. I just picked it. She smiles, softly, a little sadly. No, you chose it. And suddenly, you're not in the room anymore. Or rather, you are, but it's gone dark, and the desk is gone, and the shelves are gone, and the woman is gone, and now, projected across the space in glowing, faintly twitching strands of light, is you. Not a mirror. More like a story. A retelling. Your childhood flickers into view, mud-streaked shoes and a schoolyard argument over who got to be Artemis in the playground pantheon. Then a teenage memory, your first real heartbreak, the one that involved way too many movie quotes and one deeply regrettable haircut. Then the present, ordinary, quiet, filled with routines and small joys. A recent memory of scrolling through a Hades meme at 2 a.m. flashes overhead. You laugh, just a little. But the light shifts, becomes redder, thicker. Now it shows something you haven't done yet. You're standing at a crossroads, not metaphorically, an actual dusty crossroads with three paths ahead. On one, you see yourself choosing safety. The other, risk. The third disappears into mist. You step closer, and the scene disappears. The room returns. The woman is watching you again, arms folded. What was that? A glimpse, she says. Not of the future, of the possible. Historians still argue whether ancient Greek views of fate allowed for flexibility. Some traditions suggest Moirai, the fates, were absolute, cutting and measuring lives without negotiation. Others believe you could appeal, persuade, or even trick your way into a new fate. Apparently, you're in the trickable version. She gestures for you to sit. You do. I need to ask you something, she says, and you must answer plainly. You brace, then nod. What do you regret? You blink. Sorry? Your biggest regret, she repeats, not unkindly. The seed you buried deepest. This is a trap, but you answer anyway. You speak of something small. Maybe you didn't say something when you should have. Maybe you left someone behind. Maybe you looked away, told yourself it didn't matter, and now you wake up some nights wishing you could go back to that moment and just choose differently. She nods. Once, and then, without ceremony, reaches under the desk and pulls out a small box. Wooden. Simple. She opens it. Inside is a single pomegranate seed, bright, shimmering, and pulsing gently like a sleeping heart. This is yours, she says. It was planted with that regret, and now it's ready. You reach for it, but she stops you. Careful. Once you take it, something will change. You pause. Change sounds good, but it also sounds irreversible. Change what? She shrugs. Maybe you, maybe the world, maybe neither, or both. Quirky fact of the day. Some ancient texts describe Persephone planting pomegranate seeds herself across the underworld, not to trap souls but to nourish them. A strange kind of gardening. You don't overthink it. You take the seed. It's warm, not like fire, more like the center of a fresh-baked pie. The moment it touches your skin, it vanishes, not in a flash or puff of smoke, just gone, absorbed. The woman stands, and the door behind her opens, tall, wide, filled with light that doesn't hurt your eyes. That's your path, she says. No promises, no maps, just forward. You look back, the boat, the river, the tree, all gone. You step through and the air changes again, thicker, sharper, more alive. You walk, unsure what comes next, but whatever it is, it's yours now. The ground under your feet crunches, not gravel, not stone, leaves, dry ones, curled and crisp like old parchment, scattered in a layer so thick they drown your footsteps. Above you, the canopy is thick and golden, bending the light into long, lazy beams that feel less like sunlight and more like honey. You breathe in. There's a smell, earthy, warm, a little spicy, like someone roasted autumn over a low flame. You're in a grove, but not just any grove. This one pulses, not visibly, not in any cinematic slow heartbeat of the land kind of way, but something about it thrums at the edge of your awareness, as if the trees themselves are holding their breath, waiting to see what you'll do. And then, just like that, the hush is broken. A rustle behind you. You spin, half expecting the woman from before, or another riddle, or maybe a philosophical talking goat, but it's a boy, maybe 10, wearing a chiton way too big for him and dragging a stick along the bark of the trees like he owns the place. He stops when he sees you and squints. Oh, you're you. Thanks, you say, not sure how else to respond. You're late. I'm what now? He shrugs, picking at a pomegranate rind he pulls from his pocket. She said you'd come sooner. Thought maybe you chickened out. Ah, so now you're being trash-talked by woodland children. Love that. Who's she? The boy doesn't answer. Instead, he points deeper into the grove, and then he's gone. Literally, like a dust mote caught in a sunbeam, poof. Nothing but a ripple of dry leaves where he stood. You sigh and walk. It's always walking with you now. You'd really appreciate an Underworld scooter or maybe a chariot sharing app. You push through a curtain of low-hanging branches and find yourself in another clearing. Smaller, tighter, the kind that feels like it's been waiting specifically for you. And there it is, the tree. The same tree, but different. You recognize the trunk, the curve of the branches, the almost smug way the roots press out of the ground like elbows. But now, instead of fruit, the tree is blooming. Not flowers, not quite. Each blossom is shaped like a mouth, closed, soft pink, dozens of them, and they're whispering. You step closer and realize it's your name, they're saying, over and over, but not in chorus. Each mouth says it differently. Like people from different moments of your life, teachers, friends, enemies, lovers, the barista who always spelled it wrong but said it sweetly anyway. You're about to touch one when the air shifts again, another presence. But it's not watching you, it's walking toward you. And she arrives like dusk. Not fast, not flashy, just inevitable. You recognize her from every myth and movie and museum carving. The braid of black hair, the slender fingers stained red, the calm, calculating stillness of someone who has had centuries to get very, very good at waiting. Persephone, she smiles. Finally, she says, I've been meaning to speak to you. Right, sure. No pressure at all. You scramble for something intelligent to say, maybe a compliment on her seasonal duality, something like, love your work, big fan of spring and eternal torment. But you just say, hi. She chuckles and sits right there on the roots, as though the tree grew them specifically for her throne. Tell me, she says, what did you think the underworld would be? You blink. Worse? She laughs again, not mocking, just amused. That's what everyone thinks, that it's all punishment and howling and fire. But it's not. That's only one part, and it's not even the interesting part. You glance at the whispering tree. Is this the interesting part? She tilts her head. No, she says. You are. This would be a great time for a little confidence boost if you weren't currently overwhelmed by the sense that your entire psyche is being silently audited. Mainstream historical fact? Here you go. The Eleusinian Mysteries' secret rites in ancient Greece, centered on the myth of Demeter and Persephone. We still don't know what exactly went down in those ceremonies because everyone swore lifelong secrecy, but they were about death and rebirth and descent and return. Persephone waves her hand gently. The whispering mouths fall silent. You came to me through a choice, she says, but most don't even know there is one. A choice for what? To be rooted or to be replanted. You sit beside her without really deciding to. The tree looms over you both now, branches curling inward as if eavesdropping. She explains softly, everyone walks with old seeds in them. Regrets, memories, shadows. Sometimes we carry seeds that aren't even ours, passed down, hidden deep. Most never sprout. They just weigh you down. You think about the seed you took from the scribe's desk. Do they ever grow? You ask. She leans in slightly. Only if they're fed. It's a metaphor, obviously, unless it isn't. Fringe tidbit time. One ancient myth variation said Persephone didn't eat the seeds. She spit them into the earth to sprout a forest where only the dead could walk. A living memory map of every soul who'd ever wandered through. You run your fingers along the bark. The grooves look familiar, like handwriting. No, like a fingerprint, your fingerprint. Is this tree mine? Only partly, she says. It grows from your seed, but it roots in my soil. Cryptic, but poetic. You sit in silence a while, and then you ask quietly, do I stay? She considers. Some do, but you're not one of them. How do you know? Because you still have questions. And it's true. You want to know what happens next. What the seed did. What it will do. Whether this entire journey was just a dream inside the moment it took you to brush your fingers across a pomegranate skin in a museum gift shop last Tuesday. She stands. You should go now. You hesitate, but you get up. The tree rustles. One flower mouth opens again. This time it says something else. Not your name, but a word. You don't remember it, not exactly, but it echoes inside you like a memory that's just out of reach. A name you used to call yourself. A truth you stopped saying out loud. You thank her, you mean it, and you step away from the tree. The path appears, like always, when you need it. You walk. Again, always walking, but this time, you're walking out. The light shifts again. This time it brightens, gradually, like someone's easing up a dimmer switch somewhere far above you. The canopy thins, then vanishes altogether, and you find yourself on a slope of pale stone, dusted in fine ash that puffs up beneath your feet with every step. The air is thinner here, drier, humming with faint static, and for once you don't hear whispers or riddles or teeth grinding in the dark. Just wind. Real, honest wind. It tastes like cold iron and fennel, strangely specific but somehow comforting, like a breeze that's traveled across too many ruins, picking up stories and loose gods as it went. You follow it. And there, at the top of the hill, is Hades. Not the big drama entrance you were expecting. No cape flapping theatrically, no throne carved from basalt and lost souls. He's just sitting on a rock, chewing on something, legs stretched out, one sandal off, like he's been waiting all day for a break. You stop. He glances over at you, squints into the sunlight, then waves the half-eaten fruit in his hand. You're late. Oh no, not this again. Did everyone get a group memo? He shrugs. Persephone likes drama, I like naps, but we all agree you took your sweet time. You move closer, and now you can see what he's eating. Pomegranate. Of course. Except, no, not a full fruit. It's a sprout. A tiny sapling, fresh from the dirt, still green at the stem. He's chewing on the edge like a kid gnawing a pencil during finals week. You're eating your own tree? He raises an eyebrow. Who said it's mine? Tache. You sit across from him. The rock is warm, weirdly comfortable. This whole area feels more grounded. Less dreamscape, more old countryside picnic spot that hasn't been maintained since the Bronze Age. All right, you say. So what's your deal? You show up now? He smirks. I've been here the whole time. You just couldn't see me yet. Classic. You glance around. The ash is starting to swirl more now. The wind's picked up, carrying with it the faintest scent of burning olive oil and wet parchment. A memory tries to surface. Something from your childhood. A storybook, maybe. The underworld is a place of memory, not punishment. The river Leith and its waters that strip everything away. And yet here you are, remembering more. You eye the sapling in Hades' hand. Is that the same seed I planted? He gives a small nod. Took root fast? That tree down there? He jerks a thumb back toward the grove. It's not just yours, it's everyone's. A collective tangle of souls that choose to remember instead of forget. You pause. But I didn't choose anything. I just followed breadcrumbs. Hades raises an eyebrow again. No such thing as just following. Even hesitation is a decision. You want to argue, really you do, but the words don't come. Instead, your fingers curl around something small in your pocket. The stone from the river. Still warm. Where are we, you ask. He gestures broadly with his half-eaten sprout. The cusp, the edge, between the below and the above, you can almost hear the cicadas from the mortal world if you squint. You close your eyes, and you do hear them. Faintly, rhythmic, like a heartbeat made of summer. Mainstream historical fact, ancient Greeks believed Hades wasn't evil, just necessary. He was just. He ruled the underworld not as a tyrant, but as a gatekeeper, a keeper of balance. Some even saw him as wealth itself, Plauton, the god of abundance, because all things eventually return to the earth. You ever regret it? You ask suddenly. Being the guy no one prays to unless they've run out of options? He chews for a moment, thoughtful, then spits out the seed. It lands in the ash and disappears without a trace. Nope, he says. You don't get regrets down here. Just echoes, and echoes don't hurt. Fringe tidbit time. Some rare versions of myth claim that Hades once tried to grow a grove of pomegranate trees that bore fruit only in dreams, that he offered them to heroes. If they could resist eating, they'd get their memories back. Most failed, because of course, everyone wants to remember more than they want peace. He leans back and stretches, his spine cracking like old floorboards. Well, your tree's growing, he says. That's rare. Most people leave seeds here without even knowing. You? You fed it. With what? He looks at you like it should be obvious. Regret, longing, wonder, questions, the best fertilizer. Oh, right, thanks. Emotional baggage. You stand, dusting off your hands. So what now? You go back, Hades says simply. That's it? No test? No final boss fight? No mystical riddle to solve? He grins. You've already solved it. You stare. Wait, was it that chair thing? What chair? Never mind. He stands too, brushing ash off his robes. It falls in lazy spirals, vanishing before it hits the ground. You turn to look behind you. The slope is gone, replaced now with a path that looks eerily like the alley where this whole thing started. Same curve, same moss, same light slanting in just so. A chill runs down your back. Will I remember all this? He nods, but it won't feel like a memory, more like deja vu soaked in metaphor. Of course it will. You step toward the path. The stone in your pocket throbs once, then fades. Hades waves lazily as he turns back to his rock. Don't be a stranger, he calls out. Just don't eat any more weird seeds unless you're ready for another round. Noted, you say. You take the first step. The ground doesn't shift. The world doesn't blur. You just walk forward, up, out, and into something startlingly familiar. The sound of traffic, a dog barking, the hiss of sprinklers. But still, carried faintly on the wind, is the scent of ash and fennel, like a secret only you now know. Your shoes crunch softly on gravel as you emerge from the underworld. It's not a dramatic exit. No bursting through marble gates, no sudden gasp of daylight or choir of nymphs holding sparklers. Just the low thud of your feet on a path that seems suburban, that seems familiar in the most unsettling, you've dreamt this before kind of way. You're back on a street, maybe your street. But it's all skewed a little to the left. Trees you half recognize grow in slightly wrong places, and the houses look like stage sets built by someone who skimmed a memory you once had and filled in the rest. There's a smell in the air. Cinnamon, an old toast. Maybe someone's making breakfast. Maybe you're still dreaming. You glance behind you. There's nothing there. No ash hill, no grove of trees, no smug god nibbling plant matter. Just an alley and a breeze. You press forward, trying not to overthink the subtle way the sky has no clouds but still pulses with that storm is coming pressure. Your hands are in your pockets now, the stone still nestled there like a secret promise. You think about tossing it, like Hades tossed that pomegranate seed. But then again, you're not quite sure what would grow if you did. Maybe a vending machine that dispenses memories, or a cat that only exists in metaphor. You pass a park. Kids are playing, but they move like they're underwater, slow, graceful, not quite sinking with the laughter you hear. A swing creaks once, though no one's on it. You blink, and now a woman in ancient Greek robes is pushing it instead, humming something that sounds suspiciously like a Beyonce ballad sung in Doric. Definitely still dreaming. And then you see it. The tree. The tree. Growing from a crack in the sidewalk. A full pomegranate tree, somehow both brand new and ancient, trunk spiraling like it's braided, leaves that shimmer between green and gold depending on where you stand. And there, curled at the base of the tree, is Persephone. Again, only this time, she's barefoot, wearing jeans and a hoodie that says Queen of Seasonal Affective Disorder. She's scrolling on a phone that's definitely too advanced for any century you've visited so far. Sup, she says, not looking up. Thought you left. You reply. I always leave, she shrugs, but I also always come back. That's kind of my thing. You sit on the curb beside her. The stone in your pocket vibrates faintly, like it's reacting to proximity or to sarcasm. So what's this now, you ask? The real world? Or some kind of reality-themed escape room? She pockets her phone. This is the middle, she says. You've been to the below. Now you're here, in the tether, where memories cross over but still wear disguises. This is where the fruit ripens. You look up at the pomegranates overhead, dozens of them, glowing faintly from within, like they're holding more than seeds, like they're holding moments. Pick one, she says. Why? To remember. The fruit is warm, not in a sun-ripened way, but like it holds something alive. You pluck it gently and the stem snaps with a soft sigh. You roll it in your hands. It hums. And then, without fully knowing why, you split it open. Instead of seeds, there are images, flashes, a library from your childhood, the smell of chalk and old book bindings, your grandmother humming while peeling oranges, A rainstorm where you danced with someone you loved, though you've long forgotten their name. All of it floats above the fruit like holograms made from longing. You get to keep one, Persephone says, but only one. The rest go back. You hesitate, the orange peeling memory. A nod to someone who shaped your kindness, who taught you small comforts, who knew the difference between quiet and silence. Persephone waves her hand. The memory fades from the fruit and nests itself inside your chest. You feel it settle there, permanent, like a tattoo made of warmth. Is this what you do? You ask softly. Help people remember? She shrugs. Sometimes. Sometimes I remind them to forget. Depends on what they need. Mainstream historical fact incoming. The myth of Persephone wasn't just a tragic love story. It was central to the Eleusinian mysteries, a series of sacred rituals in ancient Greece that promised initiates secret knowledge and, possibly, a better afterlife. Scholars believe these rites offered hope in a world full of uncertainty, death, and taxes, though not necessarily in that order. You look up at her. Why me? She grins. That's what everyone asks. You'd think more people would ask when me or how long do I have? But no, it's always why, like there's a form you forgot to fill out. You can't help smiling. Fringe tidbit? A few fringe scholars argue that pomegranates were never really about the underworld or fertility, but about timing, that the fruit represented choices sealed in cycles. Bite now, and you wait another season to undo it. Chew slowly, and you might still rewrite your ending. You stand. The sky's darkening now, but not in a scary way. More like a curtain being gently drawn after a long performance. Persephone stretches, grabs a fruit of her own, and bites straight into it, juice dribbling down her chin. You should go, she says, mouth full. Before the dream loops. Once it starts repeating, it gets harder to leave. You nod. Look at the tree. Back at her. Will I see you again? She pauses, smiles softly. Probably not like this. But then again, the underworld's full of surprise cameos. As you turn away, she calls out one last thing. Hey, if you ever do see Hades again, you glance back. Tell him he owes me a dog. You raise a brow. Cerberus? She grins. No, a normal one. That slobbering monster keeps eating my socks. The world bends, tilts, and the sky shatters like glass turning to mist. You walk forward anyway, not running, not hiding, just moving, the way people do when they've remembered enough to let go. You walk a long time, though time has stopped meaning much. It's not clear where your feet are taking you, but there's a rhythm to your steps now, a low, sleepy percussion like distant thunder rolled in wool. Your surroundings shift with every blink. One moment you're passing through a fog-swept temple courtyard, cracked stone and ancient carvings beneath your soles. The next, you're inside a modern kitchen with retro wallpaper and a radio playing 1940s swing. Everything feels just one layer removed from real. But then again, you've tasted pomegranate juice, you've bent time backwards with a single seed, you've laughed with Persephone and walked beside shadows. So yeah, reality is flexible. The corridor narrows. You duck under an archway lined with vines, only to realize the vines are made of words. Old Greek, newer Latin, and something that feels suspiciously like internet slang woven through it all. At the far end stands a man, tall, broad-shouldered, cloaked in shadow, naturally. He's facing away from you, gazing into a mirror that reflects not his own face, but a series of flickering scenes. Wars, coronations, people brushing their teeth in silence, someone slicing a pomegranate and sneezing at the same time. You know who it is before he turns around. Hades. Again. Only softer now. Less stage villain, more late-night philosophy professor who makes you question your major. He smiles faintly when he sees you. You're still walking, he says. Good. Most people get stuck, loop themselves into little logic knots, and start looking for windows instead of doors. You tilt your head. And what do? Help them out? He snorts. I watch. I manage. I adjust the thermostat. You glance at the mirror. Is that everyone? In a way, people, places, potentials. This is the room of versions. The mirror flickers again. Now it shows you. Except it's not quite you. This version is younger or older, wearing a uniform or a toga, laughing, crying, eating cereal in bed while watching nature documentaries about squid. Each flicker is a life you didn't live. Some you could have, some you still might. Most people think I keep souls, Hades says, turning back toward the mirror. But really, I keep possibilities. Someone has to. You look again. yourself as a painter in Florence, as a scribe in Alexandria, as a beekeeper somewhere in future Mars, humming to a hive glowing faint blue. Do we ever get to choose? You ask quietly. You're choosing all the time, he says. Every breath is a branch. Mainstream historical fact: the Greeks didn't really see Hades as evil. That whole devilish reputation came later when Romans and Christians started retconning myths. To the ancient Greeks, Hades was more bureaucrat than villain, a necessary god doing an unglamorous but crucial job, like the IRS, but with more respect and fewer phone trees. People think Pomegranate was a trap, Hades muses, but it wasn't. It was an anchor. Persephone needed something to hold her tethered. You can't exist in multiple states forever without something giving way. So, it's about balance, you say. He nods. Choice, memory, cycles. You can go anywhere, be anything, but if you never touch the ground, you never grow roots. You sit beside him. It feels natural, like you've been here before, even if you haven't. Historians still argue that you begin slowly, whether the whole Persephone tale was ever literal or if it was just a metaphor, an agricultural cycle, a way to explain seasons. Hades chuckles. It is a metaphor. That doesn't mean it's not true. You look at him sideways. So which is it? Did it happen or didn't it? That depends on you, he replies. Did you feel it happen? You nod. Then it did. That's the thing, isn't it? Dream or myth, memory or metaphor, if it shapes you, anchors you, wakes you up at night, or helps you sleep, that's real enough. You ask something you've been holding in, why me? Why did I go below? He exhales, because your story paused, and when stories pause, sometimes they need rebooting from the roots up. He reaches into a pocket, no idea where that pocket came from, and pulls out something small, a fruit seed. But it's not red, it's black, smooth, unbroken. For next time, he says. You stare at it. You mean I get to go back? He smiles. You were never gone. Fringe tidbit: some lesser known ancient texts, real oddballs, suggest that Hades and Dionysus were two sides of the same god. One ruled over death, the other over life's ecstatic chaos. Together they represented not opposition, but continuity. Death feeding life, roots feeding bloom. You hold the seed, it's warm, you tuck it into your pocket, next to the memory you chose earlier. Will I remember all this? You ask. He gives you the look parents give when asked if Santa's real. You'll remember what you need to. Maybe more if you're lucky, or if you write it down. You nod slowly. Then you rise. Your reflection is still flickering in the mirror, but now it starts to steady. It becomes you. Just you. Clearer, eyes a little brighter, shoulders a little straighter, someone who's carried something precious and now knows how to set it down. You turn toward the door. No dramatic goodbye. No final line from Hades, just a nod and a doorway that waits. You walk through it. Not because you're ready, but because it's time. You open your eyes to morning. Not a morning, just morning. The kind of light that doesn't belong to any particular place. Golden and soft like melted butter over parchment, it pours in from nowhere and everywhere, brushing your face with warmth you didn't realize you missed. Your limbs feel lighter, not like floating, but like gravity finally agreed to give you a break. You're standing in a meadow, or maybe a garden. It smells like thyme and petrichor and something faintly sweet, familiar in a way that makes your eyes sting, though you're not sure why. Ahead, there's a tree. You already know which one. Its bark is dark and knotted, as though it's lived through a dozen floods and a handful of minor existential crises. But the fruit, it glows. Crimson skins gleaming in the light, tucked among the leaves like jewels pretending not to be important. The pomegranate tree. Still growing. Still here. You step closer. A bee buzzes lazily by your ear. The air hums with the kind of silence that's been filtered through time. It's not emptiness, it's fullness, softened, like the moment before a symphony begins or after it ends when you're not sure whether to clap or just breathe. You sit beneath the tree and close your eyes again. This isn't death. It's not even sleep. It's stillness, the kind you've earned. And then, because this is your story now, you remember something else. An old woman's voice, soft but firm. Seeds don't sleep, they wait. She was right. Mainstream historical fact: the ancient Greeks believed pomegranates held life inside them, not just in a poetic way, but literally. They associated the fruit with fertility, rebirth, and cosmic cycles. In fact, Demeter's priestesses sometimes wore crowns of pomegranate branches during seasonal rites, as if to remind the world that death always makes way for life again. You tilt your head back. The sky above is that perfect shade of twilight between dreams. And then, like flipping a page in a dream journal, you remember the first time you ever tasted pomegranate. Not here, not in the underworld, but as a kid. Someone handed you a bowl. You were told to eat carefully. The seeds stained your fingers red. You didn't even like the taste back then. But now it tastes like memory, like risk, like choice. You feel it again, the soft weight in your pocket. The black seed Hades gave you. You turn it in your fingers. It's smooth as river stone, cold and warm all at once, like it's holding a tiny storm inside. And you realize you've been here before, not just in this life, in others. Historians still argue whether the Elysian fields were meant as literal geography or just a metaphor for peace after struggle. Some say it was a paradise only heroes could reach. Others believe it was open to anyone who lived with erit, virtue, purpose, that untranslatable Greek glow up. You've earned your way here not through valor or conquest or reciting epic poetry with proper meter. You just kept walking. You look down, the roots of the pomegranate tree pulse faintly beneath the earth, and there, tucked into a curve where root meets soil, is a little something. A box, wooden, simple, ancient. You'd almost miss it if the light didn't catch the carvings just right. You open it. Inside, scraps of paper, fabric, a seashell, a broken wax seal, and a coin. That coin specifically, the one Charon gave you. You smile. Fringe tidbit? In some rare burial practices, ancient Greeks placed not just one obol, but two coins with the dead, one for Charon and another as a bribe to Persephone, just in case someone needed a little mercy on their judgment day. A celestial tip jar. You pick up the coin. It hums in your hand. Then, without quite thinking, you press the black seed against it, and the coin cracks. Not loudly, not violently, just a soft snap like old candy. Inside is something smaller. Another seed, bright red. Your heart stutters. You blink once, twice, and suddenly you're no longer under the tree. You're back in that meadow, but now it's a train platform. Yes, a platform. Art Deco arches overhead, brass benches, a humming vending machine that only dispenses epiphanies and club soda, and waiting by the edge? Persephone. Again, she's older than before, wiser. But she smiles when she sees you. You found it, she says, nodding toward the seed in your hand. You offer it to her. She shakes her head. It's yours. You look around. There's a train pulling in, silent and gleaming like a thought you almost forgot. The doors open. She gestures. You ready? You shrug. Define ready. Persephone laughs. That's the right answer. Mainstream fact: some modern scholars believe that the myth of Persephone wasn't originally tragic at all. Early cults celebrated her descent as a voluntary journey, one where she chose to go below, to rule, to understand the depths. Only later was the tale reshaped into a warning. But in some circles, she was never stolen. She stepped down. You step onto the train. The doors hiss shut behind you. No conductor, no ticket punch, just you, your seed, and the journey ahead. Outside the window, the scenery blurs. Not places, memories, lives, moments. 1,000 branches of what might be, folding gently into the quiet night. And then a breeze, a familiar hum, a soft voice in your ear. You're almost home. The train doesn't move the way you expect. There's no clackety rhythm, no tug of acceleration, just the feeling that the space itself is folding like cloth around your seat, like you're slipping into a sleeve made of time. You press your forehead to the window. Outside, the blur has slowed, not to reveal a place but a story, not a new one, old one, older than gods, older than people, older, perhaps, than the idea of endings. You see a garden, not the soft Elysian kind. This one's wild, overgrown. The hedges are chaos, and the dirt paths squiggle like a child drew them. You don't recognize it at first until you spot the gate. Rusty, tilted, half swallowed by vines. You remember this place. It's where Hades planted the first tree. It wasn't always a pomegranate, you realize. The first attempt, as it turns out, was a fig tree. That one got eaten by an underworld mole. Then he tried a lemon tree. Persephone hated that one. Too bright, too sharp. A cypress came next. But it just made the whole realm feel more depressing, which frankly was already his aesthetic. Then, the seed. The black one. That wasn't even his idea. Persephone slipped it to him during one of their walks, after a long argument about boundaries, autonomy, and the ethics of eternal vows. Try this, she said. It's patient. It waits. And he did. Mainstream historical fact: ancient texts describe Persephone not just as a passive bride or abductee, but as a powerful initiator of agricultural cycles. In some Eleusinian rituals, she was said to have taught mortals how to sow and tend the earth. She didn't just go underground, she made things grow while she was there. Back in your seat, the train begins to dim. Not dark, just softer, like twilight moving through your brain. Across from you now sits a small child. She looks familiar. Not in a creepy horror movie way, but in that you remind me of me kind of way. She's peeling a pomegranate, juice staining her fingers like watercolor. Want some? She asks. You hesitate. Is this safe? Is anything? You nod. She passes you a seed. You pop it into your mouth. It tastes quiet, not sweet, not bitter, just certain. A flavor like exhale. You look back at her, but she's gone. Instead, there's a mirror in the seat now, and oh boy, there you are. Not how you think you look, how you feel you look. All soft edges and half-formed thoughts. Hair that never quite behaves. Eyes full of things you've seen but haven't yet processed. You wave. The reflection winks. This feels normal now, which is how you know it's not. Quirky tidbit: there's a minor Greek myth, barely a footnote really, about a nymph named Lenoia, who claimed that mirrors were fragments of the river Lethe, shattered and framed by mortals so they could look at themselves and forget what they saw. The idea caught on for about 5 minutes before philosophers ruined it by trying to assign metaphysics to it. You blink, and the mirror turns back into a window. And outside, you see her. Again, Persephone. Not standing in a field this time. She's on a throne, marble, sure, but it's cracked with ivy creeping through the seams. Her dress flows like liquid dusk, and her crown, it's not gold. It's woven from vines and bone and starlight. You feel a weight in your palm. The seed, the black one, still there, still yours. The train slows, your ears pop a little, and just like that, you're no longer on the train. You're standing in front of her. She nods, not smiling, not frowning, just acknowledging. Did you find what you needed? She asks. You open your hand. Show her the seed. Not what I needed, you say. What I forgot I already had. She tilts her head. You could stay, she offers gently, or go. And if I stay, you learn the names of the roots, she says. You teach the soil how to hum. And if I go, you carry the memory of dark things without fear. Historians still argue whether Persephone was more feared or loved. Some cults worshipped her with ecstatic festivals and honey cakes. Others whispered her name only during eclipses or when planting seeds on certain lunar phases. She's the only deity to rule both life and death, and maybe that's why she was never entirely trusted, because she knew both sides of the story. You close your hand around the seed, you smile. I'll go, you say. She doesn't nod. She doesn't need to. You're already turning. The ground beneath you crumbles, not violently, just like a sandcastle giving up its shape. And you fall. But gently, like being lowered onto a pillow made of dusk and lullabies. You're back. Sort of. It's a room, a real one. You recognize the smell, that weird blend of laundry detergent and warm electronics. There's a fan whirring softly. You're tucked under a blanket, though you don't remember getting in bed. You blink. It's dark, but in a cozy way, and in your hand, the seed. Except now it's a stone, smooth, warm, a reddish sheen like it's been kissed by a fruit that never really leaves. You exhale. Mainstream fact: pomegranates don't just symbolize mythic cycles, they've also been used historically as offerings in real-life funerary rites. In parts of ancient Greece, Rome, and even Persia, the fruit was buried with the dead as a promise that even in the soil, something red, juicy, and full of life might burst forth again. You place the stone on your nightstand. It hums just a little. Not enough to scare you, just enough to say, you're still part of the story. When you finally sleep, you dream in roots. They twist through memory like veins beneath a pale wrist, threading themselves around moments you forgot you'd buried. You see the street where you learned how to ride a bike, the carpet in your childhood room, a pomegranate tree growing out of your old backpack. Somewhere, a whisper curls around your spine. She's not done with you. You don't know if the voice means Persephone or the tree. You wake slowly, like surfacing through honey. There's morning light spilling sideways across your blanket. Not bright, but amber soft, the way candlelight stretches shadows instead of banishing them. The fan still hums. The stone on your nightstand? Still there. But something's changed. It has a crack. Just a thin one, running right down the center like it's waiting to split open. You reach for it, but stop. Because your door is open. And there, Standing in the doorway is a man. He's not creepy, which, frankly, is a miracle. Unannounced men at the foot of your bed usually rate high on the nightmare scale, but this one just looks confused, a little dusty, wearing sandals and a tunic like he's halfway through a toga party. "Do you happen to know the way to Eleusis?" he asks. You blink, say nothing. He looks around your room, taking in your lamp, your bookshelf, the mug with 3-day-old tea. Then he spots the seed stone. His eyes widen. "You've been," he breathes. "To the garden." Mainstream historical fact: Eleusis was home to the Eleusinian Mysteries, secret religious rites held every year in honor of Demeter and Persephone. No one really knows what happened during the ceremonies because initiates were sworn to secrecy, and violating that vow was punishable by death, which frankly is a great way to keep a club exclusive. You sit up. I think I met her, you say, not really to him. "The Queen." He nods solemnly. "We all do, in time." You stare at each other for a long moment, and then, like a balloon deflating, he sighs. "I shouldn't be here," he mutters. "Wrong threshold." And just like that, he flickers. Not poof, not dramatic portal, just a stutter in the air. And he's gone. You exhale, rub your eyes, glance at the stone again. Still cracked, still silent. You get up, make tea. The normal kind this time. Not herbal spirit-dusted grave blossom or whatever Persephone would serve. Just plain black tea. You sit at your kitchen table, sipping slowly. Everything feels realer now, like color is settling back into the edges of things. Quirky tidbit? In some regional folk traditions of Greece and Anatolia, people believed pomegranate juice could bridge dreams and waking life. A few drops spilled on your pillow before sleep were thought to open your mind to earth below messages, visions from roots, stones, and seeds. You reach for your phone. No messages, no weird calls, but your calendar is blank. Not empty, just cleared, like someone swept their fingers across the screen, erasing all your appointments with the soft insistence of destiny. You sip your tea again, staring at the blankness. It doesn't feel ominous, it feels full of possibility. You look out the window, and that's when you see it. The tree. It wasn't there yesterday. A single pomegranate tree, in the middle of your tiny yard. Still young, but already bearing fruit, dark red globes hanging low like sleepy planets. You step outside, barefoot. The grass is cold. You walk toward the tree, and underneath it, nestled in the soil like it's always belonged, is a note. Not parchment, not scroll. Sticky note, bright yellow. On it, scrawled in messy pen, "Time doesn't loop, it roots." You snort. She would use a sticky note. You pocket it. Back inside, the kettle whistles. You didn't turn it on. But that's fine now. It's all fine now. Historians still argue whether the Eleusinian mysteries were psychedelic in nature. Some believe the initiates drank a barley-based potion called kikion, possibly laced with ergot, a fungus from which LSD is derived. Others think the ritual's power came from the storytelling itself: descent, transformation, and return. The seed eaten, the threshold crossed. You return to your bedroom, sit on the bed, look at the stone again. This time you pick it up, and with a soft click, the crack deepens. A tiny flake falls away. Inside, red, juicy, alive. You laugh, quietly. Of course, you place it back on the nightstand. Let it be. The fan hums. The day outside tilts forward, and something in you does too. Not in a rush, not like a leap, just a quiet forwardness, like the earth nudging you to grow. That night, you dream again. But this time, the garden is different. The mist doesn't swirl. It flows like water across polished marble. The vines hum, low and sleepy, and the fruit on the trees glow just faintly like lanterns in a distant harbor. The gate is open before you can even ask. You step through, barefoot again, the cool stone familiar now beneath your toes. It's quieter than last time, still, but not empty. You know she's here before you see her. Persephone sits by the fountain. She's not in her queenly robes tonight, just a long white dress, her hair undone and curling like smoke at the edges. There's a plate next to her with 6 pomegranate seeds on it. Only 6. "You came back," she says, not looking at you. "Not sure I left," you reply. She smiles just a little. "That's the secret, isn't it? Thresholds aren't doors, they're choices." You sit beside her. The air is heavy with scent, earth, stone, something metallic and sweet. The kind of smell that makes you feel like you're underground even when you're not. She holds up the plate. "Want one?" You hesitate. She tilts her head. "You already ate one." And you realize she doesn't mean now. She means then, before the dreams, before the man in the doorway, before the sticky note and the tree that wasn't there and now is. You didn't just visit, you chose. Mainstream historical fact: the myth says Persephone eats 6 pomegranate seeds, one for each month she must spend in the underworld. 6 months of life, 6 months of sleep. Winter is her absence, spring her return. It's a metaphor for the natural cycle, sure, but also a way to explain how absence becomes presence, how death makes room for growth. I used to hate them, she says. Pomegranates. You blink. Too messy, too many seeds, too much work for so little fruit. But then I realized they're not food, they're clocks. She picks one up, holds it to the light. Every seed a tick forward, every bite a decision. You lie back, looking up at the leaves above. They're strange, shifting from gold to green to shadow, like they haven't made up their minds what season it is. Quirky tidbit: some early medieval monks used to call pomegranates Adam's apple's cousin because they thought it might have been the real forbidden fruit. Too red, too sensual, too seedful. In Christian iconography, Mary is sometimes depicted holding a pomegranate. Fertility, pain, and prophecy in one palm-sized fruit. Is this a warning, you ask? No, she says softly. This is a harvest. And with that, she eats one. The juice stains her lips. Tell me something, you say, sitting up. Why me? She looks at you like she's heard that question more times than the sun has risen. You asked the right question, she says, and didn't demand the right answer. You stare at the fountain. The water doesn't ripple, but it does listen. A soft echo moves through it, not your voice, not hers, just a hush. Historians still argue whether Persephone was originally a death goddess at all. Some believe she began as a purely agricultural deity tied to seasonal cycles and fertility, only later merged with the chthonic powers of Hades. In early Homeric hymns, she's described as dread and majestic, but also tender-hearted and fair-ankled, a walking paradox, queen of shadows, guardian of growth. I'm not what you think, she says suddenly, as if she heard the thought. You glance at her. I don't wear bones. I don't drag souls. I don't cackle. She raises her eyebrows. Most days, you snort. I'm not trapped, she continues. I chose. You nod. I think I'm starting to understand. No, she corrects gently. You're starting to remember. And that's when she stands. The trees tremble a little. I can't walk you out, she says. Why? She touches your shoulder. You're already halfway home. And like that, you're alone, but not scared. You look around. The garden is darker now, but not fading. The trees have curled inward like they're tucking in for sleep. The fruit still glows faintly. You hear water trickle. You feel warmth rise beneath your feet. You begin to walk, not forward, not back, just through. And as you move, the garden shifts into stone, into streetlight, into carpet. You pass a staircase that smells like your grandmother's apartment, a patch of weeds from your middle school courtyard, a door you've never seen but always dreamed. Every step is familiar, every step is forgetting, every step is return. You open your eyes, you're back in your room, the fan hums, your tea is cold and the seed stone on your nightstand, gone. In its place, a single red thread, tied into a loop, waiting. You stare at the red thread. It doesn't glow or pulse or do anything particularly magical. It's just there, rough, dyed, tied into a perfect circle, the kind you'd slip over a wrist or hang from a doorknob. Maybe it's always been there. Maybe you brought it back. You don't touch it right away. You let it sit like it's thinking, like it needs a moment to decide what kind of object it wants to be. Then, as if on cue, your phone buzzes. No notifications, no missed calls, just the lock screen lighting up with a calendar reminder, winter solstice in 12 hours. That can't be right. You check the date. It is right. You've been sleeping longer than you thought, but you don't feel groggy. You feel like you've run a marathon in your dreams and somehow came out more you on the other side. You pick up the thread, slip it around your wrist. It's a snug fit, almost like it was made for you. And maybe, just maybe, it was. Mainstream historical fact. In ancient Greece, red threads were sometimes tied around statues or tombs to mark transitions, life to death, innocence to experience, ignorance to initiation. They weren't just decorations, they were boundaries drawn in crimson, not to keep you out, but to remind you you'd crossed something. You go outside, just to feel the air. It's cold, crisp, and smells faintly of firewood. Your breath fogs the air in little puffs, and even the moon seems to hang lower, heavier, more pomegranate colored than usual. Your neighbor's tree, the one that's been dead for months, you swear there are buds forming, little red ones, too early for fruit, too late for bloom. You start walking. You don't really know where you're going until your feet carry you past the park, past the library, and straight to the greenhouse, the one at the edge of the old college campus, tucked between the observatory and the abandoned lecture hall. You haven't been here in years. The path to it is cracked and overgrown, but not impassable. And when you press your hand to the glass door, it clicks open like it's been waiting. Inside, the warmth wraps around you like a familiar coat. The air is heavy with chlorophyll, soil, and that damp sweetness you only get from forgotten plants in bloom. And there it is, the tree. In the center of the greenhouse, rising like a sentinel from a bed of moss and black loam, a pomegranate tree, its bark dark as wine, its leaves glinting with dew. Not too large, not too small. You circle it slowly. At its base, a weathered tag tied with string. Punica granatum, Hades cultivar. Do not harvest without consent. You blink. It's a joke, right? Or an art project. But the bark feels warm. And as you reach out to touch one of the fruits, you feel it again. That tug. The same pull from your dreams. The same hum you felt in the garden. You close your eyes. And you hear her. See? Not trapped, rooted. Open scholarly debate. Scholars still can't agree whether the myth of Persephone originated as a purely seasonal allegory or whether it was once a far older shamanic initiation rite, where descent into the underworld represented a symbolic death and rebirth for initiates, particularly young women. There are even fringe theories suggesting the Eleusinian mysteries preserved psychedelic rituals centered around such transformation, hidden in plain sight through agricultural metaphors. The air around the tree shifts. You feel it in your chest like a song you half remember, something ancient, something older than language. You look around, the greenhouse is changing, not visibly, not physically, but the meaning of it shifts. The glass no longer holds in light, it holds in threshold. This place is a door. And like Persephone said, doors don't open, choices do. You reach into your pocket. The thread is still around your wrist, but your fingers brush something hard, small, seed shaped. You pull it out. It's a pomegranate seed, just one. You didn't pick it, you didn't take it, you brought it. Quirky tidbit: in the 19th century, some Victorian occultists believed pomegranate seeds were soul anchors, that if you carried one unknowingly from the dream world to the waking world, it bound your spirit to both. Not in a cursed way, more like a mystical VPN. You'd always be able to tunnel back in if you needed to. You crouch and plant the seed beside the tree. The soil accepts it like it's familiar. And when you stand, something clicks inside you. Not your bones, not your brain, something older. You understand now. Not the myth, not the metaphor, the rhythm of descent and return, of dormancy and bloom, of saying goodbye not as an end, but as the start of waiting. You step back, let the air settle, and you walk out of the greenhouse, not hurried, not heavy, but whole. The door locks behind you with a soft click, and on your wrist the red thread pulses once, not with magic, with memory. The next morning is quieter than usual. Bird song, yes, but distant, like it's being played from an old record somewhere just out of sight. The sun filters in through your window, soft and golden, as if it, too, is being cautious not to wake you too fast. You lie still for a moment, eyes barely open, watching the curtains shift in the breeze. No dreams this time, but no emptiness either. There's a fullness to your breath, a rhythm that seems to match something outside of you, something ancient and slow and deliberate. You rise and stretch. Your feet find the floor like they've known it forever. There's no need to rush, no urgency. You move through your morning like pouring tea, one small act at a time. The red thread still circles your wrist. It's part of you now, not magic, just tether. By noon, the world feels louder again. Cars, conversations, a leaf blower 3 houses down that seems determined to test the limits of human endurance. But none of it intrudes, it just is. Part of the noise of the living. You smile, you even answer a few emails. Mainstream historical fact: ancient Greeks believed the underworld wasn't just a place of the dead, it was a necessary balance to life. The Eleusinian mysteries, those secret rites held once a year outside Athens, focused not on mourning, but on hope. The idea that even in death, there's a return, that Persephone didn't stay gone, that nothing truly dies, it just changes shape. And that might be the part we forget too often. In myths, we focus on the descent, the fall, the fear, the darkness, but rarely do we celebrate the climb back out, the quiet, unnoticed resurrection. The person who returns is never exactly who they were. They're someone new, someone layered. The afternoon drifts by like a page turning in a heavy book. You go outside again, this time to the backyard. The air carries the sweet sting of winter herbs, rosemary, thyme, maybe a stubborn sprig of mint that never got the memo about frost. You sit on the steps, hands tucked into your sleeves, and there, in the corner of your eye, you spot something. Another tree. You never planted it. It's small, barely a sapling, but unmistakably pomegranate. One single brilliant red bud has formed like a whisper, like a wink. Quirky tidbit. In certain rural parts of southern Italy, pomegranate seeds are still buried near the home on winter solstice as a kind of folk blessing. The idea? To remind the earth and yourself that what's planted in darkness can still bloom in light. They even call it seme del ritorno, the seed of return. You don't touch it, you just watch, and you remember. That garden, that field of souls, that smell of ash and myrrh. The pomegranate that split in your hand, not like a trap, but like a gift. Open scholarly debate. Some historians now argue that the entire myth of Hades and Persephone was never meant to be about abduction at all, but about agency. That it was Persephone's choice to stay, to eat the seed, to walk both worlds. That perhaps the myth isn't about being taken, but about choosing transformation on your own terms. And that changes everything. Because if descent is chosen, then return is earned. And you earned this. You get up, brush off your clothes, and head back inside. Later that evening, as the sky melts from pink to bruised to black, you light a candle. Just one. No ceremony, no chanting, just flame and shadow. You place it near your windowsill and sit in silence, and in that silence you feel it again, the hum. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady, like the pomegranate tree in the greenhouse, like the sapling outside your home, like your own heartbeat, measured and patient. You think about Hades, not the cartoon version, not the villain in a cape, but the god who waits, the one who doesn't rage or chase but simply receives, the one who keeps time, not with clocks, but with seasons, with seeds, with stories. Maybe he never grew that pomegranate tree. Maybe it was always there. Maybe all he did was point, so you could find it, so you could find yourself. You exhale, slow, gentle, grounded, and for the first time in a long time, you don't feel like you're falling. You feel like you've landed. Now that we've reached the end, let everything begin to settle. Let your breath slow, your shoulders fall, and your thoughts grow soft around the edges. You've traveled far tonight, not across land, not really, but through layers of time and myth and memory. You've walked through underworld gardens and stood beside ancient gods. You've tasted a seed meant to bind, only to discover it frees something deeper. And now here you are, still, quiet, whole. The story isn't over, not really. Stories like these tend to loop rather than end, spiraling gently inward like the curl of a fern or the pattern inside a pomegranate. Every time you tell them or remember them or dream through them, they grow again, a little different, a little wiser. So as you lie back and close your eyes, let the images drift by like soft shadows behind your eyelids. A candle's flame, a hand outstretched, a red fruit in bloom. No need to hold them too tightly. Just float with them. Maybe tomorrow you'll plant something, or open an old book, or stare too long at a tree and wonder if it's watching you back, or maybe you'll just rest. That's enough too. The underworld waits for no one, but neither does it chase. It welcomes. And sometimes that welcome feels like silence, like stillness, like sleep. So go ahead, let go now. You're safe. The story is told. The journey is finished. The flame is low. The night is here. Sleep well, traveler, and if you dream, dream in red.